Radha Ramana Hari Govind Jai Jai.
I've been discussing a little about the post-materialism program, spiritual education. And I've already discussed something about proving how the soul is real, or the spirit is real. That spirit is a real, non-physical entity which actually affects the material world. We gave the example of computers, skyscrapers, spaceships, space shuttles. These are all produced by conscious beings. Matter by itself won't produce and can't produce these things. So, in effect, consciousness is working miracles. Physically speaking, it's a miracle that there's a computer here. This is the individual consciousness. And mathematically, the fact that the world exists is also a miracle. So what's performed this miracle? So that's a universal consciousness. So this is how we can arrive at a point of understanding that the materialistic theory that everything just happens by physical interactions is not only it's false, it doesn't make sense. Also, that's something I'm not going to go over that again. But it doesn't make sense even. Now, moving on from that, okay, so spirit is real, but here we are in the material world, and we think that we're bodies. The scientists are telling us that we're bodies, just meat, chunks of matter. They want us to believe that we're electrochemical machines. So, but actually spirit is real, and spiritual life is real. So the question is, how can we live as spirit here in the material world? So that's the subject of the second module of post-materialism, life choices. If we observe people's behavior, we'll see that some people, they follow, we can say religious, they follow natural rules, religious rules, spiritual rules. And they don't commit violence on other people, they don't commit violence to their body. In other words, they're pious, they live piously. Like in India especially, you'll see. Very pious, very pure. Some, not all, but some there are. Other people, they're full of material desires, and to fulfill those desires, they're engaging in so much activity, heavy activity. But they're confused about what they're doing, why they're doing it, what are going to be the results. We see in modern society, for example, they're making huge skyscrapers and they tear them down. Then they do something else, they put DDT for pesticides, and then the DDT gets in the water. They make big roads, flatten everything and make big roads. They think all the problems are solved, but then people come up with more and more cars, and then the roads get blocked. So they say the M25 is the biggest car park in the world. It doesn't matter how big the roads are, people will come with more and more cars, and then meanwhile CO2 emission, and they say that this is affecting the climate, so many things, so many problems. This is mode of passion. So there's the mode of goodness. The approach to life is positive and harmonious. And the mode of passion is confused, and we can say hyperactive, very passionate. And then other people, actually they don't really care about principles or anything. They're ignorant of real principles of life. They don't care about the real principles of life. They want simple pleasures. Eating, sleeping, sex life, drinking, watch football, like this. And that mode is destructive. I'm not saying that everyone who watches football is destructive, but there's a syndrome there where people who don't care about principles, they're destructive. They destroy the environment, they destroy their own lives, they eat all kinds of food that's very bad for them, they engage in so many different kinds of destructive activities. So there's these three approaches to life. Why three? They correspond to three fundamental processes in the universe. There's creation, everywhere. There's creation, maintenance, and destruction. These three things are going on. So the mode of passion corresponds to creation. Mode of goodness corresponds to maintenance. And the mode of ignorance corresponds to destruction. And Brahmaji, he's the creator. He's the presiding deity of the mode of passion. And Vishnu he's the presiding deity of the mode of goodness. And then Shivji, he's in charge of destruction. So when it's time for the destruction of the universe, and Shivji dances his Tandava dance, and everything is destroyed. So maintenance is most difficult. It's relatively easy to make things, and it's really easy to destroy them. But to keep them going, that's a whole different thing. Like everyone can make babies, but whether you can keep the babies going, whether you can maintain the babies, that's a whole different thing. So this module looks at three modes of material nature, what kind of effects it has in people's lives, and what are the consequences of adopting these modes. I discussed that a bit yesterday. What are the consequences? If you live according to the mode of goodness, if you live in harmony with natural laws, then on the one hand, in the end you'll have more happiness. And more to the point, from the spiritual point of view, you'll also be able to make spiritual progress. Because if we have a passionate lifestyle, it's very difficult to make spiritual progress. And what to speak of an ignorant lifestyle? Very, very difficult. So it's very beneficial to have, both materially and spiritually, it's very beneficial to have a mode of goodness, positive, harmonious lifestyle. That's a general instruction. But then people need to know how to apply this in practical life. So then we outline 7 important areas of life where they can, this can make a difference for them. So what are those important areas? First thing is authoritative guidance. So these are 7 really important principles in life. Authoritative guidance. We're always dependent on authority. Everywhere. The child is born, and then the parents are immediately imposing authority on the children. Then he grows up some more, he goes to school, you're taking authority from school teachers. You can't do anything without authority. The fact that we're standing up is because we've lived with people who stand up. The fact that we speak and think, we wouldn't do that unless we had authoritative guidance. I mean, they've found animals human beings who lived with animals all their lives. Like there was one, I think the father put the children in with the dogs, and they just lived like dogs. They were just crawling. They didn't stand up and they didn't talk either. Thinking logically comes from being with people who think logically, and so on. So everything we do, social regulations, everything, it comes from authoritative guidance. So what to speak of, how to advance spiritually? We need authoritative guidance. You need a professor to study at university. So studying spirituality is way more critical to get that right than any material subject. So you need a spiritual professor. That's first thing, guidance. So different people with different approaches to life, they'll have different approaches to guidance. Somebody in the mode of goodness, they'll understand, okay, I've got to take guidance from somebody who knows what he's talking about. Not only materially, but spiritually also. Somebody in the mode of passion, he'll choose according to what he thinks, who's authoritative. Maybe he'll just make up his own rules. He understands you have to live by rules, but he doesn't really understand where the rules come from. And then in the mode of ignorance, who cares? Just do it anyway. Authority guides what? Action. So that's the next important aspect of life, acting. We're always acting. Action means you have some plan, then you carry out the activity, and then you get results. So, again, we need to know what kind of activities are beneficial and what kind of activities are not beneficial. Included here in activity is also organizations, because organizations are also they're also activity on the part of a large group of people. So you get organizations in the mode of goodness, organizations in the mode of passion, and organizations in the mode of ignorance. Like a terrorist group, that's in the mode of ignorance. An industrial corporation which is destructive to the environment and is basically just working on the profit motive, that's in the mode of passion. And a spiritual organization, for example a yoga organization, this is in the mode of goodness. Organizations, so this means activity. Then there's different kinds of activity. To perform any task, to achieve any task, you need different types of activity. First of all, there's got to be some plan, some understanding, and education. Secondly, there's got to be some leadership. Someone's got to tell everybody what to do. Thirdly, there's got to be resources. You need men, you need manpower, you need money, you need food, shelter. Like, for example, to be here. Okay, somebody's cooking prasadam. There's a roof over our heads. There's a video camera going. We've got resources for getting books and so on. And then finally, there's routine work of various sorts. For any work, whether to build a house, or to get an organization together, to do painting, anything. Somebody's got to put in the final touches. So these 4 types of work are characteristic of 4 different types of people. Everybody has a particular work preference. Some people are more intellectual. Some people are very good, they're physical. If you make an intellectual do physical work, he's not going to do a good job. And if you get a labourer to try and work things out intellectually, he's not going to do a good job either. So it's very important. In modern society they agree that people should work according to their work preference. That's best. And in the Vedic society, of course, we have the Varnashram system, where everyone is engaged according to their preference or according to their nature, and not just according to birth. Now in modern India it's very much according to birth, but that's a deviation actually. So the principle of cooperation is very important. And that's the third important area, cooperation, how to cooperate, what kinds of activity. And then the fourth one, okay, we're working, we're cooperating, but we've got to think of the individual. What is the individual? Individual's body, mind, and spirit, soul, self, conscious self. So we need a balance there. People in the mode of goodness, they'll have a balance between the body, the mind, and the self. People in the mode of passion, they'll be very much absorbed in the mind and the body as well, but they won't have a clear idea about the self. People in the mode of ignorance, basically they're in bodily consciousness. Eating, drinking, sleeping, mating, like this. So body, mind and self, what is the self? What does the self consist of? What is the self-nature? So everybody, I explained already, but everybody, we want to exist, we want to survive and thrive as an individual. We each have our identity. So existence, personal existence is a characteristic of the soul. It's eternal. Some people think that the soul is created at the time of birth. Some people even think it's created at the time of birth and then it's eternal after that, which is a strange idea. But eternal means it's never born and it never dies, Bhagavad Gita explains. It's never born, it's never dies. It comes into a body, the body dies, then it goes off, like somebody getting a car. They come into the car, they drive the car for some time, and when the car doesn't work anymore, they get out and they get into another car. So existence, personal existence. Then knowledge. Everybody's got desire and need for knowledge, and an ability to get knowledge as well. And then finally, why? To become happy. So everybody wants to be happy. And how can we be happy? We can be happy in relationship. So these 3 things. This is self-nature. Self-nature is the potential for existence, knowledge, and fulfillment. Being, knowing, and loving. So this is self-nature. And again, what kind of existence we're looking for, what kind of knowledge we're looking for, what kind of satisfaction we're looking for, that will also depend on our approach to life. And the approach that we have will determine the kind of results that we get. Self-nature. Then comes the question that, okay, the individual self is there, but what about the universal self? So then the next important principle is Paramatma, the super soul, who's creating or created and maintaining the whole universe. Vedic literatures explain that the Supreme Absolute Truth has 3 aspects. There's the divine light, the oneness. Many people want to merge into the oneness. Nothing to worry about. No qualities, no existence, personal existence, no happiness, no distress, nothing. There's bliss. There's the bliss of being absorbed. But there's no activities, no variety, nothing. So this is one aspect, this Brahman. This is one aspect of the Supreme Absolute Truth. Then another aspect is within the universe, Super Soul is maintaining the universe, he's maintaining every atom, he's maintaining every living creature. This is the second aspect of the Absolute. Then third, Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who lives outside the universe. But it's actually he who is manifesting the universe through his expansion. So we need to know about that Supreme Personality, and our relationship again will be determined what approach to life we're having. What is our understanding of the Supreme? That Supreme is doing three important things in this world. Is creating and maintaining our individual existence. Is creating and maintaining groups and communities. And is creating, and that includes the ecology. And is creating and maintaining the whole physical universe. So as intelligent, responsible beings, it's our business to steward these resources. Human beings are supposed to make the world a better place, not create hell for everybody else, and ultimately for themselves. And then the seventh aspect of life is what? Relationship. What is relationship? Relationship means belonging, but also being an individual. It doesn't just mean belonging to something and you surrender your individuality and you do what you're told. That's not full life. But also it doesn't just mean being off by yourself and just getting what you want out of a relationship and not putting anything back in. We depend on relationship for our identity, for our knowledge, for our life, love, everything. We depend on relationship. Means we're part of a greater whole, or many different greater wholes. We're part of that. So we have to maintain them. We have to put in, because they're sustaining our existence. Like the ecology, the environment. We have to look after the environment, because otherwise what happens? What happens is what's happening. We're poisoning it, and we ourselves are becoming poisoned. Relationship, and especially our identity, comes from being part of something greater than ourselves. Like a child, first of all with the body, then you get your identity through being part of the family, then being part of your community, and part of the religion. So all these are sources of identity. So we have to look after these things. We have to put into them. So in the mode of goodness, people will understand that. They maintain their own individuality, and they'll also maintain the greater units of which they're parts. Mode of passion, they'll be trying to get out of the relationship as much as they can. But they won't think of the other person, for example, as a person. It's an object to be manipulated. Mode of ignorance, chaos. They destroy relationships. So these are the three approaches to life and 7 important areas of life. And this module shows how to choose your approach in each of these areas of life, and then how to make sensible choices. We have an inventory also. You can check how you're doing. So, woohoo, I need to change this. In this area I need to change. So we can make decisions what we need to change. And then how we change them, that's taught in the next module. And that we'll talk about later. Hare Krishna.